I met someone I shared the ALLLISS with, and this was a 30s young woman, very, I thought, very attractive in my sense of attractive. And she's very independent, but she's working at the golf course, and she's born on January the 30th, making her an Aquarian, which is kind of a free-spirited, universally open type. And she told me that she's had all kinds of animals, and she loves animals, etc. And she's living in the mobile park that's next to the golf course and working there. And so while working, she was listening, and we talked about all of this. And I mentioned to her near the end about the ALLLISS and the isness that we all are. And she really understood this, and she said she's been doing some form of exercising, sharing, to rid herself of any attached, unnecessary persons or things from time to time, kind of a, what do you call that, a Reiki or a Wicca, type of, idea. And but it's a good one, very good. And I see that she's, just she's also aware of all the restrictions, etc. And so we had a very, very good conversation, and related to all of these related topics. So I have shared also today and tomorrow. It really is what I call the solar universal new year, or the new aegis that is upon us. And this is a celestial event as well, that is the alignment of our sun with the galactic center, our local galaxy, that we are on the outskirts of, in one of the spiral arms, and looking outside in, so to speak. But it's basically, if you looked up at the sun right now, you'd be looking at the center of the galaxy. And that's the alignment that happens once a year. And this is the Universal Zodiac that I say discovered or uncovered, became aware of, and have acknowledged that is, in terms of this whole field, is the most significant observation that's ever been made. And so just got the opportunity here today. I look at today as New Year's Eve. And the new year is tomorrow, so to speak, although that tomorrow is almost here in the date line in Asia. So, there it is. If we use references that are strictly literal in time, well, we don't really get it. And the idea of the new aegis is not that it's a new one that's just forming now and to replace the old one of whatever, partially because the old one, the old aegis of Zeus or Zeus, that was created or monitored or modified, is just that, an invention, where we so-called say we have a New Year's Day. Well, that's just an invention in a time frame that was created for the controllers to have something like the holidays. They use these events very specifically and very deterministically to control the population and the consciousness and the viewpoints of religion and business, and Christmas as an example of Santa. So I and operating here is like this secret agent, so to speak, in this field, and it's got all kinds of coordinations, like the singing of the song "Knocking on Heaven's Door" that I learned in the restaurant I was in 2 days ago and played with the electric guitar in their back room. And they come in knocking on heaven's door. And if I was to say what I was really doing, well, that's a metaphor for that. And that was fun. I had an opportunity to be creative with the song and learn it. And it's a Bob Dylan. And there's a movie about Bob Dylan that's out, just came out for Christmas. As they often usually do, put out blockbuster or movies that many people will see at the holidays. They've also made Beetlejuice and Wicked as this year's fall season blockbuster movies that they know everyone will go and watch. And, the Beetlejuice remake of the original back 1987, it's about a warlock. And Beetlejuice, which is the name of the star Betelgeuse, or from the name that is a representation of the Orion Queen and the head of, that is the northernmost star in the Orion constellation, that is the Hunter. And Betelgeuse is at the northernmost point, and the head representing the queen. Okay, it's all lined up, so recognizing how this lineup is and acting as an agent within it is an interesting opportunities, just like Kevin's stories and experiences. In his line of sight and new view. So related to that was I watched a movie called Carry On, which showed it's about a TSA agent that's at the airport checking bags, and he's approached while working, and he's I should say the main point of his character is that he's really not committed to his job, but he doesn't really necessarily want to go there into becoming a cop instead, and he's indolent in that sense, but he's also being given an opportunity to make a choice. And so the opportunity of choice is forced upon him because he has to act. He is approached by and given secretly a earphone piece so that he will be directed to act in accord with the terrorist who is talking to him through the earphone. And it's a whole adventure about allowing a bag to get through carry-on to be put on a plane, which is a highly destructive, extremely potent nerve gas, which eventually we find this all out. And there's a Netflix movie for anyone wanting to watch it. And, very fast moving and all of that stuff. And, like a Die Hard. And so the character has to figure out, this agent, how to either disarm the bomb or disarm the terrorist. And he keeps coming into a number of situation opportunities where he is blocked because the terrorist is threatening his wife and or rather girlfriend, who's also pregnant and works at the airport as well. So it's all, the idea I'm expressing is about being a kind of agent, where in this case he had to accept the terrorist's order and without question, and work with him to do what he was being told to do, and not get off, not put up any restrictions of his own, and or get off the path. And I relate that because we are on a path, everyone, each of us, and all of us. We're all on this path or pathway, skyway, spiritual, or whatever terms that people put on it, to get to the recognition of the all is. That was my adventure yesterday with these two. And while I was sitting here, Numi the cat was nearby listening, and listening to Val speaking as well, and looking for affection. And I related something else to this mirror of events, and I'm having some of this definitely related to, has something like the story of Jesus and his experiences. As an example, being in the market square, and that was used, yes, by Rebbe Zar's story in a sermon in the market square on Stranger by the River, which was perhaps, that book of all of those is the most poignant and best admired of those, of the books that were made available there. Anyway, I see the mirror here because going into the flea markets or whatever, all this purchasing of objects and food and medicine and insurance and automobiles and so forth, and it's all part of the program that was instituted. And Jesus walked into the market square and turned over tables and demonstrated against the taxpayer, the tax man, etc. And similar thing happened to John Lennon and the Beatles in their music in the 60s, as an example. Even though, again, they were also included in the controlled mechanism and the Beetlejuicing. Not probably accidental that their name was the Beatles at all, or the fact that the surviving member, Paul McCartney, is born on the same day that the sun lines up with Betelgeuse once a year, as was Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, who wasn't a surfer, but he's a California boy, Southern California Beach Boys group, Good Vibrations, and all the rest of that really good music. He did a album, Brian Wilson did, called Surf's Up in 1970, which was or thereabouts, really the key time in that particular period with the hippies in the 60s, the peak of it. It all peaked then, and the whole musical and social, cultural, environmental, naturalism and universalism, as well as the social, cultural, and political or educational situation that had reached a crisis with the Vietnam War was an issue, main issue there, etc., peace and love. And it was an attempt to institute it. Didn't happen, although there was some advancement of the opportunity, and that bring around, that's full circle, exactly, Dwayne, to the mention, coming into a new period now, and next year there's astrological relation of 6 major or outer planet points, and even the galactic center point, which is our universal center here that I mentioned at the beginning, is all changing signs in the next 2 to 3 months. And there's one changing very shortly now, the first one at Christmas. And boy, so that's, I guess, way to express how DUANE was sharing about just how much bigger it is that we're doing than we are even coming close to being aware of. And that's a good way to be able to sense that or see that. So I sent a song here, Sun on Your Love, which Nikolai helped me with. And he's, I think, and another song also where he dubbed in or added 6 different instruments in one, and another beach sound with the Sun on Your Love that I put here, just for our, appreciation or what have you. And it relates to that Star Rock idea story that I had been part of, which is about the history of, let's say, the sound current and the meteor crashes in history that were near extinction events. And I made this metaphoric story about how all the musicians were coming together to save the world and prevent the Star Rock crash. Some, whatever, 60,000 years ago, maybe one, more recent one, and then, or 600,000 years ago, whatever. Doesn't matter in time, it's just metaphoric. So I have one more story. I don't know if I'm going on too long. It was about this guy I met the other day, Val, a homeless guy. I'll make it real quick. So there were 3 things that actually happened in the last 2 days. But this third one, I mention that because we have a set of 3s in everything. And if you look, you will see that. Yes, the Holy Trinity, etc. But we're here in the 3rd dimension, and you'll see that everything comes in these 3s, and there's commentary about that idea and whatever. But I've been recognizing it in such a large way recently that it was instituted, yes, with the Orions and the Enki and Enlil and the Queen, Beetlejuice, etc. And so, anyway, I see that the people here have been Beetlejuiced. The planet has been hypnotized, or the consciousness it's a hypnotic, hypnagogic conditioning. And I see it in so many people, the way that they're in their mind. They're constantly referring to things from, oh, I know this and that, from their mental memory and conscious experiences. So they aren't able to necessarily cognize something that's being offered to them. I met this homeless man who is a traveler, drifter, and I found out he was born the same year as I, 1951, in 1 month before me, and he was a musician. He was outside of the Pilot Market, which is a truck stop, a very, very busy one that they put in here, with a particularly horrific or stupid entrance and exit situation that they didn't really think out very well. And nonetheless, so he's just sitting there on his pack, rolled up underneath him, and very at ease, it seems. He wasn't looking for money. He wasn't, he's just hanging out, I suppose you'd say. And so I parked right in front of him and walked and talked with him on my way back out, and found out that he's a musician, or was, for 20 years or more, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, I think. And he hasn't played for a long time. And his experiences he was sharing were things like, well, he was doing this music and it somehow it was taken from him, or you got to watch out for those electronics. They'll steal your head. You know, I mean, I can't say exactly how he described it. I asked him if I could record his stories, and it would really been a good way, you know, because he had these stories and he's experiencing this, the alienation and the control activities, the dominations and theft, or what have you, theft of the mind, his psyche as well. And you know, I could hear that in his descriptions. How he was sharing, and at the same time he would say things that were clear, like oh yeah, have you been up to? I've been up to this Puget Sound. He didn't call it that. He called it the Bay that's between Washington and Canada, and it's a curiosity because I've recently been trying to contact someone who lives right on that bay, I think, in Washington. And in any case, this guy kept on saying things that were related somewhat to myself. And the third one was about the lottery. He said, you got to be careful with that lottery, that money, you know. He didn't say it like that. He just said, you know, that lottery is, you know, you know, watch it, you know, or something, which means that because I have this program that I put out, and I put out the numbers today, it's worth $740 million, which if someone wins is going to be split with the government. So yeah, they only get 340 million. You know, the funny thing is, I don't think anyone needs, let's say, even in this current economics, more than $1 million to, you know, take care of everything they're possibly going to need. And you know, actually, it's more than that's more than enough, that amount. But the point is, this is what they do with this monopoly, is make it look like everybody's gaining, and the only one that's gaining is the government. That's the only one who's winning here, and the control module group. So, you know, I'm going inside, I'm sitting there, standing there, talking with him, and I actually played the song I wrote called Treasure Tree. He listened to it on his phone all the way through, very carefully. So he's, you know, in that sense, he's really paying attention. Not that he, you know, is like this, you know, super alert looking person or anything like that. It's not that. It's just, you know, all of us have our real awareness. So it doesn't, we don't lose it. And it's only there as much as we're willing to recognize it. That's it. So I wrote down to finish, this is it. He was a musician for 20 years, and then it seems the music or the powers of that be, or the deceit, dominion, took from him his good nature or the music rights or something. You know, he probably had all kinds of experiences, so he said, with it. And it seemed as I was talking with him that he was, with the funny comments, and I'm standing there inside thinking, I wonder if this is, you know, one of the new guides. But I looked at him when I thought it, looked right at him, you know, to get if that was the case, and I didn't get that. But I don't know if you can, if you, you know, I did get that it's a way that maybe the guides would work through somebody to communicate, and kind of like that, like a walk-in, not a full walk-in. You guys know about walk-ins where someone completely takes over the body of somebody, and that's, and lives in it, and maybe that's who he was. I don't know. That could be too. But all I thought of standing there then was, and through the whole time with most people I talk, is what can I share with them, or what can I give them? And so I was thinking that, and I said to him, well, there's this a little hut building and a motorhome on the property that's within a less than a mile walk. And I know that when I went there to this place, there was someone living there in the house, but the house has since been destroyed by the hurricanes. We had two major ones come through here, and so they're not living there anymore and haven't been there for a couple of years. But when I went there, I wrote the song called "The Fisherman." While I was there talking with the older guy who lived there, and he told me about his son, who was a cook and lived about 45 minutes away near the water, near the bay. And in any case, I wrote a song about the fisherman. It's on my recordings, YouTube. And so I go, oh, okay. And I told the man about this house, this building that outside is, I think, got some cover if you want to get out of the rain. And I also told him if anything happens, you can find me about 3 miles away up the road if you wanted to go, if you needed something. But he said, no, I don't need that. But I did tell him, well, if you need a place where there's shelter. I think that the hut is completely empty now, and so you can get into it, and probably no one would even know he was there. And so it's like a pretty good place for a homeless person, or somebody who needs some shelter. So that was it. I really don't know how much of what he told me or shared was real or truthful, but it was certainly interrelated with myself, because he started playing since he said he was 20 years after. He's been playing for, or he could have been playing for 50 years up till now, like I have. And wow, that's how the simulator gives us opportunities, I guess you'd say.